Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular Public Board of Ed meeting, May 1st. Just real quick, if I can take care of some housekeeping items. The Open Public Meeting Statement. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the School Districts of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices sent to the clerks of the Borough and the Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and the Independent Press. Mr. D'Aquila, would you do roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Gilfillan.
Here.
Mr. Arnick.
Here.
Ms. Ciccarelli.
Here.
Ms. Clark.
Here.
Mr. Connors.
Here.
Ms. Cronin.
Here.
Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Valenti.
Here.
And Ms. Weber.
Here.
9 present and accounted for.
The magic 5. Nice.
That's exciting.
We can finally get that off our plate. So, if everybody that's able, would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice, the band's back together. Yeah, really. Okay, so first we have additional housekeeping items. We have to do a reorg every year, and mostly that's taking care of some of our vendors, some of our appointments, our committee structures. So the first portion of the packet of agenda is the reorg. So the section A is annual appointments, B is finance and a lot of vendors, and C is our committee structure. So if it's okay with the board, I'm going to do those in a lump sum since you've looked at them over the weekend. So then I would make a motion to pass A1 through A19, then B1 through B33, and then C1.
Second.
Dealer's choice, Peter, who you want to write down to second that? Does anybody want to take any time to discuss it? Again, it's a lot of vendor reappointments, attorneys, architects. If you want to not state Peter as the board secretary, I'm sure he'd be happy to entertain some replacements. No, we're good? Okay, Mr. D'Aquila, would you mind?
Agenda reorganization items. Items A1 through 19, B1 through 33, and C1. Mr. Gilfillan.
Yes.
Mr. Arnick.
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
All items passed 9-0.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do not have any opening comments at the time. I reserve the right to interject later. So without further ado, I'm going to move directly to the administrative report. Dr. D'Souza, would you mind giving us your report?
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Weber. Just two very brief items. The first is that we have begun and are in the process of completing park testing at all of our schools. It's gone very smoothly. Ms. Chase has been at every school, I think, in the district over the past week or so. We have fewer test refusals than we've had in the past, we think, although it's hard to get a firm handle on that tally until we're all done. But there have been no reports of any problems at all, and it's been very smooth.
No system hang-ups?
No system glitches.
I don't mean our system.
Yes,
I meant
Pearson. No, Pearson's been okay.
Okay.
And
Some schools weren't as lucky. Randolph crashed
oh, really?
on their first day of testing.
Sorry to hear that. Well, we've been lucky so far, knock wood, and we'll have AP testing at the high school next week and the week after.
Okay.
So that's all sort of going the way it should. And then the second item is we continue to watch enrollment. We're hovering around 4,235 kids now for this year. We're registering students for next year still. Our hottest spot right now is at Southern Boulevard. We'll probably have to add another section there for the third grade. And we'll keep on watching and keep on reporting as we move toward and through the summer.
Kindergarten? How many sections will there be for the third grade?
For the third grade, there will probably be 7 sections. We have 6. We have 6 sections in second grade now, but we have 155 students registered for next year. So we'll exceed 25 in a section if we don't add a 7th section.
Great.
And how are we doing with kindergarten enrollment? Because it's pretty.
Kindergarten, right now, we have 45 at Milton, 82 at Southern, and 71 at Washington So we're-
For next year?
for next year.
Okay, wait, what was Washington, sorry?
71. So that's an example of one we're watching. We have 3 sections there now. If we enroll 8 more students, we'd probably have to put a 4th section in.
Right.
And just taking one of those, or a percentage of those children and shipping to a Milton or a Washington,
I'm not,
it just seems busting at the seams, structural, from a structural perspective. It's more of a question.
Well, for Washington, we have a classroom assigned
Okay.
so that, you know,
So you can
we could
have
handle
a
some
section.
students there, yeah. Milton, we'd be tighter.
Okay. I'm not looking to shuffle the deck, it just seems that just,
But it's not beyond the realm of possibility either. When did the 4 classrooms at Milton come online? In 2018?
The hope is September 2018, but we're not sure if that, I mean,
Right.
that's the goal, is September 2018.
So there may be some flexibility there, Rich, depending on how it unfolds.
just an awful lot of people.
Yeah, this coming year will be a tight year.
Sure, it'll be a tight year. I'm also concerned about the number of teardowns and, no children moving out and families of 2 or 3 moving in the southern district. So there's some concern there.
when's the last time?
And can we, I appreciate we got this, report back in our package, but the old report, I like this report that it breaks it down by school, but I'd also like to see last year versus this year, just so we can kind of see the increase.
Sure.
I mean, right now, I see second grade is bigger than third grade, but it would still be good, like your old report had the prior years, you know what I'm talking about, Pete, right?
Yes.
Just so we can see the,
Will do.
change. Thank
Will
you.
do.
Oh, can we just go back to the park testing? How did it go at the high school? Did we have?
It went well. It was smoothly. I haven't heard of any problems or complications.
But in terms of refusals, did you get a head?
Well, yes, I mean, at the high school, there's a huge number of refusals because most of the students have satisfied the graduation requirement in a different way. But the current 8th grade class has to sit for park in order to graduate. That's the current freshman, right.
Yeah.
The freshmen have to sit, the 8th graders have to actually pass a section, right?
Okay.
So more to follow. It's a good experience taking tests. Good practice for the standardized test. Okay. Anything else, Dr. LaSusa?
That's it from me for now.
No, you're good. Does anybody else have any additional questions for Dr. LaSusa on his superintendent's report?
No.
Okay, very good. Peter, moving on to the business administrator's report.
Sure, just briefly want to update on the referendum projects. Tonight, the district, if it so chooses, it's going to award the roof replacement contract. So that was all of the partial roof replacements, plus the partial roof replacements, plus the roof replacement, the high school auditorium and the middle school auditorium. So all the roof work will be done this summer. The Cougar Phase 2 will be published by this Friday, and then we'll do a bid opening on May 12th with a hopeful award of May 15th at the next board meeting. And the high school auditorium is going out to bid this week, and we'll hopefully award that project on June 5th. And then the CMS STEM edition and the Milton editions will be going out to bid probably in the next month or 6 weeks. The other project we're awarding tonight is the Southern Boulevard front office relocation, and that was funded and approved in the 16-17 budget. So we, even though with the additional classrooms where sections will be adding, we have the room now to be able to do that project.
Okay, which we tabled last year because of the enrollment. Just a quick question, and you were talking so fast I may not have caught it, but May 15th is the phase, which phase of Cougar?
Phase 2 of the Cougar Field will be awarded May 15th.
May 15th, okay. And also I have a question on the roof replacement at CHS. How can they do the roof if the auditorium isn't going to be done? I thought the sound guy said we can't redo the roof until he does all his sound work. The roof can be done before the auditorium?
The roof will be done this summer, so it'll be in conjunction with the It will have to be
Okay.
timed with the conjunction of the work going on at the auditorium.
Okay.
Because the
And-
work on the auditorium will be this summer into the fall.
Right, but that bid's not going out till June 5th.
Correct, well, it'll be awarded June.
It'll be awarded June 5th, so,
And the roof work cannot commence until at least June 26th,
okay,
until school's out.
very
So the
good.
roof work will be done over the summer.
Okay, but the roof vendors know they can't move until John, the sound guy, says we're good to go.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
Peter, on the phase 2 of the Cougar Field, you said the contract will be awarded on May 12th. When is it anticipated the work will begin?
The work will begin once the contract is approved, the bid hopefully, or the contract will be approved at the May 15th meeting. The contractor then just has to file his permit, so he can hopefully start his work at the beginning of June.
Right, and
And
phase
he's
2,
done
though,
all this.
just to clarify, it's not the bleachers, it's the macadam, the parking reconfiguration, the snack shack, and the cinder path.
And the fencing.
And the fencing, sorry. The bleachers are currently being fabricated, or at least in the work. of
Correct, the
fabrication.
the phase 1, which includes the bleachers, was awarded at the April
Yeah,
3rd
20,
meeting,
okay.
so that everything is being ordered.
right, I just wanted to clarify.
And can I just? one
Sure,
more?
yeah, jump in.
How long, if you start June, that won't interfere because the teams will still be in sports then?
No, not in June, they're done.
And when will it be done?
The phase
Phase
2 is set to be done by the end of August.
So that could be encroaching upon the beginning of the fall season,
Mm-hmm.
at least with regards to football and soccer.
Just the
At least
only,
using the turf field.
the only encroachment would be the teams that need to practice, since there would be no games yet. The only issue that would prevent, that we would have to juggle the access to the field is when they're doing the macadam. Because obviously there'd be pavement around the
They
field. so
could
we have
park
to
on
get-
Barnesdale and just walk through the fence there.
Will they be able to practice that last 2 weeks in August or not?
Yes, they should be able to, because the field is not being touched at all. It would only be the access through the part of the macadam that they have to cross, or while they're doing the fence work. And we can arrange the work around to get, so, everybody knows the field needs to be used.
Okay, so the expectation is the third week, sometime like the third week in August to have that done?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
that's all I have.
Okay, very good. Does anybody else have any questions on all the construction and referendum? Okay, very good. Moving on to the committee report, starting with personnel, Ms. Ciccarelli.
Hi. We have not met.
We met last week.
Oh, we did.
Oh, you did.
Yes, you
You
did.
did meet.
Oh, yeah.
But you have nothing to report out, right? Everything was of a confidential nature?
That's correct.
Okay.
And our next meeting is on, I will tell you, if it's correct. June 5th is our next scheduled meeting. Is
Okay.
that correct, Mike?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Moving on to curriculum, Ms. Clark.
Curriculum has not met since our last meeting.
Finance and facilities, Matt, Mr. Gilfillan.
Pete, is there something that I missed? No? Okay, so we have not met, and our next meeting is
May 7th.
May 17th. So
Jesus, is my committee the only one that works on this damn
That's
thing?
it. Somebody's,
We're meeting June 5th, I think.
somebody's got to hold up
No,
the,
May.
we have to change that.
moving on to policy and planning. Thank God, Mr. Connors, Chairman.
Yes, we did meet today, so this is a working committee. We discussed a number of items, one of which actually related to paddle. And there is an applicant or request for the paddle to be named as a varsity sport. There was a number of questions raised by the board, and I see a supporter of the paddle program out in the audience. And I know you're going to talk today. Some of the questions raised was have they played any actual matches? If so, against whom? Are they against schools? Are they against clubs? And the number of players who are playing. I've read the material you provided. But I mean, actually, those are the training sessions, I think, and I know they're playing. So the question is just kind of where is it getting away from an intramural kind of intra-high school sport versus actual playing? And I'm not looking for answers to those. Those are some of the questions that we raised, and quite frankly, we can always follow up in some more additional detail. We also discussed the two policies which will be voted on today, special education and special education free and appropriate public education. Those two, the policy 2460 and regulation 2460.8. Our next policy meeting, which you apparently are a very hardworking committee, is May 15th at 6:30. I hope
7. So we're going to do 7?
you can come to 7 if you want to start to 6:30. I hope between now and then somebody else on the other committees does something just to
Lighten
we
your
don't
load.
carry the load. But that's all I have to report right now.
That's why I moved myself off that committee. It was working way too hard.
Ms. Weber, I just also want to add quickly, the Personnel Committee, two of the items that we did discuss that were of a non-confidential nature were the agreement for the confidential staff that works up here in central office. We just reviewed some of the structure there, and we talked about the two supervisor searches that we are in the process of conducting now to secure those two replacements. And we've screened candidates at this point, conducted initial interviews, and we have committee interviews lined up this week for both the world language supervisor and the math supervisor. And Ms. Ciccarelli will be sitting on both of those committees to select those
Thank you, Ann.
people.
Are they scheduled for the same day, like back to back, or
Tomorrow is one and Friday is
Tuesday,
the other.
Friday? Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, Ann, for freeing up your work schedule with that.
Sure thing.
Any additional
They're
questions?
bringing me breakfast and lunch, so I said yes.
I sat on those committees. We never got fed. There was not even water in the room.
Karen organized them this time.
Nice. Really? All right, well, thank you very much. Moving on to liaison reports. For the borough, Mr. Connors.
Nothing to report as related to the Board of Ed.
Thank you. Ms. Clark.
Nothing to report as it relates to the Board of Ed.
Back to you, Mr. Connors, for the athletic boosters.
They have not met since our last meeting. They are meeting tomorrow. I cannot attend tomorrow's meeting. I was hoping somebody else could. I have a personal matter I must attend to tomorrow night at 7
Okay.
o'clock, usually over about 8:15 or so.
Okay, perfect. Thank
I
you.
may be there, I'll keep you posted on that.
But we'll take this opportunity to get on my soapbox and again implore everyone out there to please participate and assist as athletic boosters. They do a tremendous amount of work for our student athletes. The amount of money that they give, they're donating money to coaches and films. It is an incredible organization, but it's only as good as the people who participate in terms of showing up and also people who give money. So please do one or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Moving on to performing arts, Mr. Arnott.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Yesterday, April 30th, 42 musicians in grades 4 through 8 participated in the Morris Union Jointure Commission Music Festival. It's an annual event that gives band, orchestra, and choral students from the upper elementary and middle school levels from 12 Morris and Union County school districts a chance to perform a concert together. This year, the CHS LAF Orchestra Director Crystal Grazer conducted the 6 to 8 orchestra, and Lafayette Band Director Laurie DiBiase conducted the 5 to 6 band. Also, Ms. Weber, we'd like to congratulate the Chatham High School Theater Department, which received 6 Montclair State Foxy Award nominations for the fall production of You Can't Take It With You. The award ceremony will take place May 15th, and Chatham High School is nominated in the following categories. I'm going to briefly name them. Outstanding Achievement in Acting in a Comedy, Outstanding Choreography, Scenic Design, Prop Design, Leading Actress in a Comedy, that's Elizabeth Stewart, as well as Supporting Actor in a Comedy, that's Charlie Thompson. And then finally, I'd like to remind everyone, spring concert season is in full bloom, and you can see the district website to see the schedule of the various concerts. And the next Chatham Performing Arts Boosters meeting is Wednesday at 7 p.m. in the Lafayette Lounge, and we'd love to see more participation there.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you, Sal. What great accolades for that group. Moving on to the Chatham Education Foundation, Ms. Kenny.
Yes, CEF held its fundraiser last week, the Casino Royale. I'm going to pass it over to you, Jill, because I know you attended. If you could kind of
Oh, sure thing. What a great evening. Holy smokes, what a ball. There was tons of gaming tables, a few adult beverages flowing. They had a scotch tasting table. The food was spread out. It was well attended. It was sold out. What a great evening. It was a ton of fun. I don't think anybody, really left early. They stayed. The prizes were fantastic. It was really, what a rock star event. I mean, I hope they do it again next year. What was also impressive is the number of teachers and administrators that were there. I mean, they were on their feet all day, 12-hour days, and I saw too many teachers to count. I think all the principals was there. Some of the principals brought their spouses, which really is above and beyond to count that as a date night, but they did. So bless their souls. All of the administrative team was there. It was really, what a great, great evening. I'm sure it was financially successful. I don't have that money, or that dollar figure, and the dealers at the table were very forgiving, so it made it a tremendous amount of fun. So it was hard to kind of lose, unless you're really trying, so it was really a great evening. So thank you very much to the Chatham Education Foundation. So it was fantastic. Anything else, Lotta, or? Yeah, well, thank you. Recreation, Mr. Gilfillan?
Nothing to report.
And then PTO District Cabinet, Ms. Cronin,
They meet Wednesday.
this
Yes.
Wednesday? Very good, thank you. Okay, and then just one more item before we get to the public commentary. I'd like to make a motion to pass the magical December 9th, 2016 public and private session minutes.
Second.
I'd also like to pass the April 3rd, 2000. Oh, we have to do one at a time? Oh, right, because of the mix of people, I'm sorry, yep. So just December 19th, public and private, and Peter, can you remind us of the magic?
I'm only going to call the 5 people that can vote.
Thank you.
Mr. Gilville.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
And Ms. Weber.
Yes,
Those minutes pass 504.
finally. So then, April 3rd of 2017, public and private session. I'd like to make a motion to pass those minutes.
Second.
Are you going to call out the names?
Yeah,
Thanks.
Mr. Gilville is an abstention. Mr. Arnick.
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli.
Yes.
Ms. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Cronin.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti. Yes. And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Those minutes pass 801.
Okay, and finally, April 5th, 2017, public and private session.
Second.
You were not here. Yeah, could you read off the names of those that were here? I think Michelle was absent.
The only 2 absences are Jim and Matt.
No, I was for Pavel,
And Ms. Clark.
Okay.
The April 5th minutes, public and private. Mr. Arnick.
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli.
Yes.
Mr. Connors.
Yes.
Ms. Kenny.
Yes.
Mr. Valenti. Yes. And Ms. Weber.
Yes.
Those pass 603.
Excellent, fantastic, thank you. So we have our first opportunity for public commentary. As usual, if you wouldn't mind stepping up to the mic, if you could introduce yourself and also sign in. And if I could just remind you, it doesn't look like there's a huge crowd, so just kind of be cognizant of your own time. And also just to remind you, this is your opportunity to make a comment or discuss something with the board. We really don't have a tremendous opportunity for a detailed back and forth, but we certainly welcome your input, and we'll be in listening mode at this point. So if you could again just introduce yourself, and also remember to sign in.
Signed in. Hi, Paul Ivins. Been living in the borough for 25 plus years, and I'm here to address your questions about paddle. I can give you a quick update on how things have been going and where we're at, and then answer the questions you have and give you any other information you guys may need. As you guys know, our plan for paddle was to start it as a club, which we did 2 years ago, thanks to your guys' support. Unfortunately, the kids leading the club, they had sports today, and now they have to get their homework done, so they couldn't be here. Otherwise, they would be doing this, not willingly, but they would be having this conversation with you guys instead of me. So we started the club 2 years ago, have had tremendous interest. We've gotten about 20 kids that play every Tuesday during the winter sports season, and paddle aligns to the winter sports season at high school. We made sure of that. We also, the high school kids wanted to get younger kids involved in paddle, so they held clinics for the middle school kids, and each of the last 2 years we had 63 middle schoolers that participated in those clinics, and they were taught by the experienced high school players under the supervision of a pro. So that's been going great. at the January meeting, we got great news because the second step of the process, after we got the club going and we found out whether there was interest or not, which there obviously was, is to create a league. So there hadn't been a league for paddle, a high school league for paddle in the country. So we got the American Platform Tennis Association, which is the national governing body for paddle, to approve a high school league, which they've done. They've actually approved the first two in the country, the Mid-Atlantic League, which we would play in, and then the Midwestern League, Chicago area, et cetera. So now we have the league structure. And what we've been doing since then is talking to lots of schools in the area to get them to start their clubs and their teams, because there's there's probably about 10 teams and clubs in the Philly area, and there are 6 that play each other, and then there's a handful scattered across New York and Connecticut. So we tried to organize matches where our club would play in this mega match with all those 6 Philly teams over a weekend after the APTA approved the high school league, but the timing just didn't work. It was too tight. We couldn't get it done because the junior nationals happen in late February, early March, and there was just no way to get it in. So we couldn't play any real matches, but a lot of the kids played in tournaments, and there were about, I think, 10 to 12 Chatham kids throughout the school district, not just in the high school, that played in the paddle junior nationals, which was tremendous. So little guy, 6th graders, 4th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, all the way through the high school. So yeah.
I'm sorry,
question.
not to interrupt. Where are you actually practicing?
So we have been practicing at center court.
Okay.
They've just taken down their courts. So we have courts lined up for this winter season for 4 days a week so far. We've gotten local clubs to donate the use of the courts 4 days a week so far, and we're looking to get some more.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you said they took the course, then they just took that because it's out of season now.
No, center court makes, I guess, they make a lot of their money off of the tennis. They don't make as much money off of paddle, so they took down the courts, and they're building a new bubble there.
You made alternate plans.
We made alternate plans. Yeah, we're all set. So that's kind of the snapshot, and what we're trying to do as we talk to these other schools, and we have pretty great conversations happening with 4 local schools: Madison, Summit, Del Barton, and Oak Knoll. We're trying to get all the pieces together and turning it from a club to a sport with the gym exemption in order to get the kids to come and not have to worry about homework and all that. Those two things kind of come together so that we can get the kids to definitely commit to playing 4 or 5 days a week and doing matches as a high school against these other teams locally, and then also where other, the teams in Pennsylvania and Connecticut. We've got to get that. That's kind of a linchpin to this whole thing working. And because we're doing something that's never been done before, our model, what we do, kind of sets the stage for others to follow. So we set up the club. Now others are starting to do that. We set it up as a team. They're going to follow that as well. So all the pieces are kind of coming together, and it's looking good. So.
Does it look like the league will start next season?
Winter, yeah. That's it. It got approved at the end of January, but yeah. So
But the expectation is.
our full expectation is to play matches this winter season. Period. Yeah, against other high schools locally and in Connecticut and Pennsylvania.
So the Madison and Oak Knoll, the other schools that you mentioned, they are looking for that same timeframe?
Yeah, Oak Knoll. We found it has a whole bunch of girls that are playing already. They're just kind of doing it over here on the side, and now so they're probably the first team that we can actually play matches against because they're already set up. Madison has some kids Madison's actually already established a club 2 or 3 years ago, but they just didn't get it off the ground. So we're acting as a catalyst for them to get a lot more kids involved. So they should be ready by the winter as well. So these are just active conversations. We're having millions of discussions with everybody all over the place. But it's a great, paddle is an amazing community, and everybody's trying to help out. We have pros finding us from various clubs around, hey, what can I do to help? You guys can use our courts here. What can we do here? You want us to put posters up? So people are just really helpful, and our expectation, our plan is to do it for the winter.
You made a pitch to the boosters, and they're actually they're funding a portion of the expenses, aren't they?
The boosters had funded, so the boosters model and the Chatham Athletic Foundation model, they both funded us for the first 2 years. They're both, and they approved, and yeah, so they've been giving us funding for the last 2 years. We expect to have to be, I think, self-funded going forward because the boosters and CAF fund things for 2 years until you start up. We may go back to them and see if they would make an exception because it's such a new thing in the universe of sports. and we're just treading new ground. But and we'll see what happens with that. But if that does not happen, we know the board's financial situation is too tight to fund paddle. The parents are willing to fund it, so we'll be set there.
Paul,
Hopefully not forever, but
those other local schools, Madison and Summit,
Yeah.
Are they moving in the same direction to try to get their club deemed a varsity sport? Have you had any discussion?
Yeah, it's kind of a continuum. Some of them have have a group of people that play. Like Oak Knoll, I don't think it's even a club. It's just a bunch of girls that play. So they may, and it depends on the dynamics of their school system and the high schools themselves. Some, it's easy for them to just turn it into a team without going through the club step. Some have to go through the club step. So it's kind of all over the map. And it may be they have to go club first and then they can become a team, kind of what we did. We'll see. But either way, the APTA is fine with whether it's an official varsity team or it's a club, you can both play. But long term, if you don't make it a sport, you don't get the gym exemption, and the kids aren't really going to do it. It's not going to be sustainable.
Right, but are any of those schools at the stage we're at, I guess?
No,
is my
no,
question.
we're leading.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
we're
we are
leading. Yep.
Clearly out front. Okay.
Clearly out front.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Rich, did that answer? Oh, I'm sorry. No. Oh, sorry. This is the silent helper who organizes everything for the paddle club.
We can't hear you over there. If it's
Oh.
not on the mic, it doesn't get picked up. Sorry about that. We'll
I'm,
hear you,
I'm
but
Lynn
nobody else
Ivans.
will. I'm sorry, could you repeat it?
Lynn Ivans.
Lynn, how you doing?
How are you? I just wanted to let you know that a huge step that's been going on in the last couple of months is that Oak Knoll and Madison and Del Barton, I've been meeting with a lot of moms who play and their kids who like to play, who are incoming freshmen to their high schools. So that's huge to start it from there. And they definitely want to do it, and they're asking, oh, what do we do? How do we do it? And so I'm helping them to just approach their schools and get it as the club first.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the APTA had us give them our guidebook, how we did it, and they published it in the APTA magazine that comes out every month. So schools across the country could figure it out. Yeah, we should.
Lynn, would you mind signing in?
Did-
Just so you get credit.
Did we, any other questions? Did we answer your question?
I just had it might be to you, Mike.
Please.
So when you're a club, you don't get the gym exemption?
Correct.
So, like the sailing people, they don't have a gym, because they're not a club yet either, right?
Sailing is a sport,
Yeah.
has been approved as a sport. So all the other clubs in the school, and I don't know how many there are not approved as a varsity sport.
Didn't they start out as a club first?
Yep.
And then, so
They
those
did.
couple of years when
Fencing,
they started out as a
yeah.
club?
Yes.
they
2
did not
years.
they did not get the gym exemption?
Yeah, I don't recall what year they made the crossover, but at some point we moved them to a varsity sport at the high school.
So once it's a sport, you get
It's the same process.
Right.
Yeah,
But before that, they were not.
Correct.
yes. And we're following that same model.
Sure, absolutely, Rich, please.
Yes, I am. What's the timeline for a club to become a recognized varsity sport in the high school? Is there, for purposes of housekeeping internally at the high school, does it take a semester? Does it take a couple of, how long? Okay.
I'm not sure.
Right?
I think it's been a case-by-case basis,
has.
probably. It's probably dependent upon the amount of practice that they have, the number of competitions or contests
No,
that they...
my point is, if a decision is made, okay, we want to turn the club from a club to a varsity, how much leeway time does the high school need to have in order to just, to make it happen?
Yeah, I think very, very little,
Okay.
I would
Thank you.
imagine.
You don't want to miss the winter season.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure
Right.
if we have to back out of something, if there's a deadline by when, it sounds like you have to be a team to be in this league. I'm just wondering, from their perspective, if we're going to do it, is there a drop dead date that we have to tell them? So that's all. I mean, I'm not looking for an answer now, but I think the timeline would be something the people involved would want to
They
know.
don't have to be a team, they can be in a club and be in the team. You know, they can do that.
Because some of the others, he just said, some of the other schools may only be clubs.
Right.
They can still play them.
But they don't get the gym exemption, so
Okay.
it's just pure interest. But the sooner you guys are able to make your decision, and hopefully it's a positive one, that will help us, because we've got people before they go away for the summer. We can continue these conversations and get them teed up with their boards of ed and their schools before the summer starts, so we can get a fast start in the fall.
Thank you very
Is that
much.
good? Sure,
Wait,
thank
can I just, how many high school, like, kids not in the clinics that were playing regularly? That would be, you know, in the tournaments, say?
There were
Based on
20.
the kids that you had right now?
Yeah, it was an average of 20.
Okay,
Just depended on the week and other things going on, because some of the kids also did other sports.
right.
But we had 73, 90? How many kids signed up for the
That was
club?
the numbers that we saw with the clinics, 90-something.
Yeah, we had 70 kids sign up for the club, but on average, 20 came. Yeah, and we expect, so if you're playing a match, there's usually eight kids, 4 courts of 2,
Okay.
that can play in an individual match. That's typical paddle. In the conversations we're having, the other coaches for the other high schools that do have clubs and teams, they're very relaxed about it. They say, if you have other kids that are interested, we'll make a 5th team, a 6th team, whatever you want. So it's very inclusive.
Is that similar to tennis?
I'm not too familiar with tennis, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes, it is. General
Numbers?
Yes.
Okay,
No more
all right,
No,
thank
no,
you.
No more questions.
Well,
Thank you, I'm done.
okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for the info. So we're still in our public commentary. Again, thank you. If you would just sign in and introduce yourself, that'd be great.
I will.
Before I go, is there anyone else with really fun stuff, like paddle? 'Cause mine's not fun.
Yours is not fun?
Mine is not fun.
Well, then I call an adjournment. All those in favor? Sorry.
So my name's Bob Higgins. I'm from the township. I've lived here about 9 years. Some of you may have remembered me from the May 6th meeting. I'm the one, March 6th.
I'm still in therapy.
I'm doing a Donald Trump and going backward and forward in time really fast. So from the March 6th meeting where I asked about the cost associated with the extra security from the Fox News story that broke the Islam situation. I actually have the latest tally, whoops, dropped my notes, which is currently $9,467.36.
36 cents.
So we'll just round up to $9,500. Which, you know, and I was hoping at that time, and I think everyone in this room was, and everyone up there was, that at the end of that meeting where we had that amazing curriculum, you know, discussion, that the whole thing kind of would have gone away, and we could spend $9,500 on things like getting a paddle tennis going up, or for this, you know, immense 3rd grade that's coming in, and things like that. So I was a little dismayed to see that I was away in Europe doing some business, and then on spring break, that in that period of time, the complainants in that situation had hired the Thomas More Foundation to represent them for what, I don't know what. So when I came back, I looked into it, and I made what is an open public's request, a records request. I don't know if everyone knows in New Jersey what the Open Public's Records Act is, but it basically allows you as the public, or anyone in the public, to obtain governmental documents. And the school system is a New Jersey governmental, group. And so, I sent a note to Mr. Tequila and said, has there been anything to do with this, or is this just a PR announcement that they hired this? And I got back a 10-page notice that that the organization had actually put through their own Oprah request. So a 10-page document with 53 points of materials that they're looking for. And it's not 53 pieces of documentation, but 53 different points asking for what amounts to, I think, thousands and thousands and thousands of documents. There's no date associated with it, and I'm not a lawyer. I deal with lots of lawyers, so I'm used to thousands and thousands of documents from lawyers in my own business. But they've basically gone through piece by piece saying things. I'm just going to read a couple of them. I'm not going to read all 53 because we'll be here for hours and hours. Nobody wants that, particularly me. So things like, number one, a copy of all records, documents, or course writings referring to any assignments pertaining to the teachings of Islam in courses within the school district, including but not limited to the 7th grade World Cultures Geography class at Chatham Middle School. Okay, well, that's pretty massive, and since they didn't give us any dates, when does that go back till? 20 years? I don't know. So hundreds at that point, depending on how far you go back, if not thousands. That's point number one. Point number two starts going into all emails pertaining to. Point number three starts going into copy of all records, documents, writings, correspondences between school officials and teachers, then school administrators and teachers and employees, and basically blah, 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 for 53 points, many times, seemingly to ignore the terrific presentation that we had about the curriculum that spans from K to 12 and looking at it as a holistic body and focusing so specifically on this 5-day period where many of the documents that they're looking for are all about just the 5 pillars. And I just thought we had gotten past this and we all understood it because we all learned something that night. And so at this point, I know lawyers aren't free, and I would guess that we as a school district have lawyers on retainer, but I don't think anyone was anticipating thousands and thousands and thousands of potential documents. First of all, who's collecting them? Are we taking the teachers to somebody has to get them, right? And then somebody has to go through, because one of the things that they want, which I was dumbfounded, is a copy of all tests or assignments given to the students of the school district of the Chathams and students and the students' responses thereto, with names redacted for years 2014, 15, 16, and 17. Really? We're getting the kids' work now, and we want to put that into the public record, even with names redacted, but now we need to bring in the lawyers to redact all that stuff. And that, it's just a massive cost. And at some point I'm like, when does the witch hunt end? And when do we say, no, enough is enough? Because it feels to me, and this is, like they're basically just trying to wrestle their way into getting the answer that they want by forcing us to bleed the budget and putting the money where the money shouldn't go instead of where it should go, until we're all just so exhausted, we're like, oh, forget it, go. We don't care anymore. We're not going to teach this anymore. And that's just ridiculous, because what if I don't like the math curriculum? Do I get to come in and do this for the math curriculum? I'm not really a fan of sciences. Do I get to do this for sciences? Seriously, it's kind of ridiculous. So I don't know if I have a specific question. I'm just beyond frustrated at this continuous flow of money out, which is ironic because I'm not the financially, responsible person in my world. I'm, the guy that spends all the money. I'm just cheap, and I don't want to keep spending money, but that doesn't need to be spent.
Well, I would like to, we did receive the open request from the Thomas More Law Center on behalf of the defendants, and I'm going to ask Rich to maybe comment after I comment. To answer your first question, we can't say enough is enough. Legally, we have to respond. To that point, though, we have attorneys that will help us hopefully narrow the scope and maybe get clarification. But to your point, some of it is going to take a tremendous amount of resources just internally. Just gathering emails will take a tremendous amount of time from the tech folks. Some of the curriculum stuff will take Steve Mayer probably out of commission for, an untold amount of time. So we're trying to get clarity. We're working with our attorneys. Some legal fees are covered by a retainer, and some things are not. If it becomes outside of the ordinary or the contractual agreement, that will come directly out of the operating budget. So any additional expenses outside of the attorney's fees that are on retainer will absolutely come out of the operating budget. And in addition to that, as I mentioned, the opportunity cost and the time and resources internally to go through the materials and the number of emails that they requested. They asked for many of the board emails, mine in particular. They're going to be bored out of their mind. I don't write too many of them, but they still have to be gone through. I can imagine though Dr. LaSousa writes hundreds and receives, hundreds in a given period of time. So it will be extensive. So We don't have a dollar figure associated to the task. We're working with our attorneys to try and get clarity so as it's not such a massive lift. But we don't have the authority to say no mas. We have to comply with the law, and it will be a dollar figure, and it will be a significant time and resource for sure, which will, directly impact the children, or possibly do we have to hire temporary help, to dig out, and that comes out of the operating budget. That can't be moved from capital reserve. That has to come directly from the operating budget. It will affect paddle, it will affect sale. If it comes down to a $1 million settlement, which I have no idea what, they haven't submitted any, this is the only thing we've received from them, is this OPRA request, or this Open Public Record Act request. But again, we can't say enough is enough, we just have to comply as best we can. But I would like if Rich Connors could maybe comment from a legal perspective, if he has a comment. Would you mind, Rich?
No.
Bob's listening.
Oh.
So I just want, Rich is my
talking
counsel
to your
here.
back either. I talk to a lot of people's backs. You have the right to ask the question, like the two mothers had the right to ask the questions that they asked. Under the law, there is that OPRA request that they're entitled to make the requests.
Sure.
The school district has their options and their rights to respond accordingly. This is somewhat in a quasi-legal area, so I don't want to encroach upon that system too much in terms of we'll follow the advice of our attorneys and we'll continue to provide the best education we can, hopefully minimize the impact that these requests and any future requests that may arise have on the ongoing education and available resources. But to reiterate Jill's comment, I don't foresee any likely scenario where we say no mas. I believe that the presentation that was given on that date was widely approved of, and I think uniformly applauded. So I don't see the district or the school backing down in any way, shape, or form. Number one, we can't, because we have to provide the education that the state requires. It's a mandate. Sure. So I don't, if your concern is we're going to stop, I don't see that as a likely scenario going forward. But more than that, again, I'm uncomfortable going any further because it is a legal proceeding, and I don't want to say anything, nor should the board be saying anything and commenting on their rights to do it. But we will be responding. We have an attorney, and their attorney, he's a very good attorney, and we'll proceed accordingly.
Great.
But, your questions are well-founded, and it's a legitimate concern. It really is. It's a concern that we should all be having. But, we'll proceed, and again, the education of the kids has and always will come first and foremost.
Thank you. And Bob, before you leave the podium, I would just like Michelle Clark, who's chair of the curriculum, to also address your question on the...
I mean, at that same meeting, we did, the curriculum committee had met for hours prior to that meeting in March, and we are not changing the curriculum as it relates to the teaching of religion, our social studies curriculum. We decided that at the curriculum level and at the board level when we reported out. So we are comfortable and we are consistent with the New Jersey learning standards.
That's great.
So we thank you. We share your concerns. Certainly more to follow. And hopefully, as Rich said, we can minimize the impact to the students and the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I just ask a question?
Thank you,
So
Mr.
I know
Higgins.
we're keeping track of the legal fees, are we also keeping track of any time that anybody puts into this, whether it's staff, whether it's teachers? Are we keeping track of all that?
I haven't yet, but I can. I can ask people.
It hasn't started yet, so.
But I think, that would be my suggestion, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the key players, I mean, I assume you're going to be able to tap some key players if they can round about how much time they've taken away from their daily tasks to address this particular item.
Yeah.
Again, treading as lightly as we need to, as it is a legal matter.
Ladies, are you going to shout from back there, or are you going to actually come up to the microphone?
I thought it was giving Jill time to
Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Amanda Feeman, and I am the president of the Chatham Education Foundation, and we are here to report excellent news. You already gave us great kudos from before. You didn't know the number. We are still counting the number, but at this point in time, it's over $90,000 in proceeds.
Wow.
And so, as our motto says from the Education Foundation, we strive to make the students and teachers reach higher. And I have to say that Chatham is truly committed to a quality education by their level of support that we showed that night. I've heard it said many times in this room, because though I'm not here, I am watching on TV, and I thank you for televising these meetings, because it helps me balance my life and give more back to the school district as well. But when we say we are Chatham, what made that night a success was truly everyone in the community. As you said, there were teachers, there were administrators, there were over 80 silent auction items, 61 casino prizes, and 290 purchase tickets sold. And all of the prizes and all of the auction items are donated. We also had over 23 sponsors this year. We had 23 sponsors this year, which is probably the largest number that we've ever had. So when we sit in this room and we're thinking about who we are and what we're really too committed to education, what I saw that night was this community is committed to a high-quality education. And that when we come together, they will make things happen. And I can't be prouder than to stand here to be a part of where I live. And particularly to have seen, even from the times when I used to come into this room, and I might have been one of the 5 people in the room, that now even the level of support in this room is growing. So
It has.
I'm very pleased. And so I'm going to turn it over to Amy, who's now going to give you an update on what we approved at our last board meeting.
And I played craps with Amy for quite a while at the table. We had a very forgiving dealer, at least our side of the table.
Yes, we did. Hi, I'm Amy Coates from Chatham Township, and as a member of the Grants Committee for the Chatham Education Foundation, I do get the fun responsibility of presenting the board with the verbal check from the meeting of April 18th in the amount of $13,990.74, which I think you should have already received. And that was to cover 3 grants for the month that we approved at the meeting. One to the Southern Boulevard School called Rockin' and Relaxing, which encourages calm minds and bodies through alternative seating options incorporating yoga and gentle pressure. One to the Lafayette School called Minds in Motion, engaging students' core muscles and providing alternative ways to move while sitting. And one to the Southern Boulevard School for learning spaces, providing a flexible learning environment, optimizing choice, collaboration, engagement, and communication.
But before we sit down, I'll just give a plug, because one of the larger grants that we gave this year was for the community-wide art show, and that has been scheduled for May 31st. So since there's not another meeting, I would encourage everybody to come out and attend that event, because I know the art teachers are very excited, because it's going to span K through 12.
Oh, nice.
And so there will be details forthcoming about that particular event. But we're very excited this year because the grants, I truly feel like, have covered all disciplines, and we say we tried to touch every child in the school district. And being part of the process and seeing those grants, I have truly seen that goal coming to life this year in all schools and all disciplines. So thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda, what's the time and location of the art show?
I saw on one calendar that it was June 1st.
We'll get back to you, and we'll report through LADA.
Okay.
I think some of what's happening is I think that things were slated for the 31st, and then I think the calendars are shifting a little bit because I think because it was K through 12, as we all know, calendaring becomes quite critical when we try to cover all grades. So I know field day was at some of the schools on the 31st, so they might have moved it to the 1st.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for all your hard work. It was a great evening. It was really
Thank you.
fantastic.
Good evening, Bill Heap, Chatham Borough, and I brought some things for show and tell tonight. My day job got in the way of my attending the last meeting, so I've got a lot to cover and I'll do it in a hurry. First thing, Chatham Fishwack race, June 10th, online signups right now. It's our 40th annual race. Great family event. We're encouraging Dr. LaSousa to be our guest. There is a family fun run at 9 o'clock. Everybody can participate in that. And of course, the more serious run is at 9:30, and that's the part where the high school and college kids make the rest of us look foolish. The race is set for online sign-up, so you can go there, or you can register the day of the race if you would like. Second thing is we will be having our Distinguished Service Awards dinner. I think it's going to be on June 13th. That's what we're zeroing in on. We give an award to somebody who has spent lots of time volunteering the community. That will be announced shortly. We will also give out or announce our scholarship winner. I just brought, this is about half the applications that I received. We will be going over tomorrow night. We will be sitting around at my kitchen table with lots of beer. We will try to decide who is going to get the scholarship. And I don't think that most people have any idea how good these kids are. It's staggering. And it makes it almost impossible to decide who will get the scholarship because every one of them is qualified. So it becomes a little bit of a dilemma, but we'll do our best. And I enjoy going through and reading every one of them. I have for the past 25 years. It's always a treat to see what's going on in the community and the school. Next thing is my wife and I attended the play, The Addams Family, even though I consider myself to be more of a Munsters fan than the Addams Family. We just thought it was great. It's the best entertainment bargain in town, and I do look forward to seeing future plays in a newly renovated auditorium. I am one of those people who reads the program, and I had a lot of trouble with identifying the ancestors and the zombies that were running around in the background. And when I look through the program, I see that Barney Rubble is an ancestor. And I guess to the extent that he's everybody's granddaddy, I suppose he qualifies. But also Wilma Flintstone is in there, and I'm just wondering if they're inferring some unseemly behavior. I don't know. All of this is to say, and some of these people I had to look up because I had no idea who Kid Blink was, or Bessie Waldo, or any of these other people. It's probably way above my pop culture pay grade. But the play was great, and we look forward to another one. Now for less serious business. One more time, I'm going to beat you up on the office building.
Tuesday wasn't good enough?
Tuesday wasn't good enough,
All right.
no.
You heard all the people, though, on Tuesday say they're in favor of it, right?
I heard them all, but
All right.
they're
I
not the
just
same
want
people that I
to know
talked
that
to.
You heard other people say they're in favor of it.
I did, and I hear plenty of people who not only are not in favor of it, but are rolling their eyeballs. The financial argument is really thin, plenty of space on Main Street. In fact, right next to Investor Savings, there's 8,000 square feet of available space, kind of in the center of town. I think it would probably be okay and a decent location. There is also right up the street in Madison, I guess, maybe that wouldn't qualify, but a brand new building that has been empty for 4 or 5 years, worth an investigation. I don't think the payback is there. I think the money could be used, put to better uses. And I don't see really a problem with taking the temperature of the community on this. An online survey, something along those lines, where you would get feedback and you would get people's opinion as to whether they're really in favor of spending this kind of money on a new building. Let's not forget that this building that we're in now once had a bright future in the world of education, and the paint wasn't even dry on the wall before it became clear that it was obsolete. So we have to be careful about being in the construction business, I think. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heath.
Hello, my name is Nicole DiMaggio. I live in Chatham Borough. I've been living there for 17 and a half years. And I would like to express my full support of the board on the construction of a new administrative building behind the high school. I'd like to thank you for choosing to invest in our school district rather than continuing to rent space. I would like to thank you for looking to move our administration out of a public building that doesn't have any security into a building that will enjoy the same security as the rest of the school district, especially in light of all the recent threats that our administration has been receiving. I certainly think they are deserving of that same level of security, and currently the building that they are housed in is open to the public. I would like to thank you for planning ahead. We have lots and lots of really large classes that are going to be coming down the pike, and it's nice to know that the new space will be available to be built on top of if space at the high school starts to get tight again in coming years, and we can add some new classrooms. So I thank you for planning ahead. I thank you for planning to bring our administration and our special services staff closer to the students and the staff and the buildings. I think it will be nice to have them close by. And I thank you for doing all of this without increasing our tax bill. So I think that I speak, as a matter of fact, I know that I speak on behalf of many, many people in saying thank you for choosing to do that for our administration and for our entire school district.
Thank you, Mr. Maggio.
You can come back anytime. Not so much.
Or at least come back every meeting that Mr. Heap comes to. If you could coordinate your schedules, that would be helpful.
Hello, my name is Mike Ryan, Chatham Borough. I'm not going to beat you up about the building, but I do want to say a couple of things about that, about the way it was funded. I think that to the extent that we can, to the extent that it's available to us, we should use every way possible. And you may have gone through this. I'll have to educate myself a little bit more about the process. But use every way possible to for surplus dollars to end up in operating budgets, even if they need to extend beyond the next school year. We have rising healthcare costs. We have rising enrollments. There were 40 open houses this weekend. So there's going to be large enrollments. And with those enrollments, statistically, we're going to have a percentage of those folks moving into the community that are going to need special services. Those costs are going to go up. And we also have rising legal costs going up. So to the extent possible, let's explore every way that we can delay immediate funding of surpluses into the capital reserve. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any additional public commentary before we close this session? There is another opportunity if something strikes your fancy as we go through the agenda. Seeing none for now, I'm going to close the current public commentary section and then move on to the agenda, which we should cover fairly quickly. So moving on to personnel, Ms. Ciccarelli, would you mind moving the personnel items?
I would not. I'd like to move action items A1 through A12 on your regular agenda.
I'll second.
Does anybody have any questions for any of the administrators or Ms. Ciccarelli on any of the personnel items? And just a reminder to folks in the viewing audience, these packets are available to the board and the public on Friday afternoon. So if it appears that we rushed through some of them, it's only that we've had the whole weekend to look at them, so we've already reviewed them at length. And again, they're posted for the public by close of business on Friday, usually earlier than that.
Peter, we don't have to approve the attachment, right?
That's already in part of the...
Got it. Okay, got it. So no addendum.
Okay, excellent. Any questions?
I'd like to congratulate the 3 retirees. Margaret Driscoll is the lead secretary at CMS. She makes that place run. She's been terrific for the district. Kathy Leonard's a BSI teacher at Milton, and Josephine Serrano's been our supervisor of world languages. And wish them all the best on the greener side of the pasture.
Kudos to them. Always jealous of these retirements. Someday, when colleges are paid for. No additional questions? Mr. DeQuilla, would you...
Agenda items A1 through A12. Mr. Gilfillan. Yes. Mr. Arnick? Yes. Ms. Chigarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? Yes. And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 9-0.
Excellent, thank you. We're moving on to the finance and facility items. Mr. Gilfillan?
I'd like to move action items B1 through 19 on the regular agenda.
Second.
Be mindful number 2, please, which is the final
Budget?
budget for 2017-18 school year, and running at 2.95%.
Okay.
Be mindful of course, of acceptances, donations, one which we've already had CEF spoke to, second which is a Chatham Middle School PTO donation amount of $5,100 as to be used for the 8th grade Washington DC field trip, and then a matching gift donation from Moody's. Thank you to Nancy Chang Clark.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Anything additional? I know Mr. Arnott covered the budget item for us at the last meeting. Nothing new has come to mitigate that, so I think we're going to have to forge ahead. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, no additional. And thank you, Sal, for stepping in for Matt on that. I appreciate it. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind?
Sure. Agenda items B1 through B19. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Arnick? Yes. Ms. Chigarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 9-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Moving on to the heavy lift of the 2 curriculum items. Ms. Clark?
I move action items C1 and 2.
Second.
Okay, I don't have, does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry. I was just looking at the bilingual one. No additional questions for Ms. Chase or Dr. LaSousa? No? Peter, would you mind?
Agenda items C1 and C2. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Arnick?
Yes.
Ms. Chigarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti? And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 9-0.
Excellent. Thank you. So we now have a portion of the program where we hit some board business.
Policy.
Oh, and he's the only guy working.
One that does all the work.
I know, he did so much work at the beginning, I thought he was done.
We have one action item.
But 2 policies, a policy and a regulation. Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
Wasn't there a famous line, spears and arrows, slings and arrows?
Guns and Roses.
Sticks and stones.
I would like to move action item D1, please.
I second it.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Connors on policy 2460 or regulation 2460.8? No questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's a little insulting.
I'm sorry.
You didn't even get a vote, sorry.
But everybody agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So item passes 9-0.
9-0, thank you. So now we're going to move on to board business, and then we have our second opportunity. Before the crowd dismisses too, we have a brief executive session where action will not be taken, but just board before you bolt, before I can see you, if you would stick around and squeeze into Mike's office. There's not enough seats, so whoever gets there first gets a chair. Or you can call 5s when you get there. So just board business, I would just like to remind, every year during the reorg, the board signs, we fill out a ton of paperwork, a ton of disclosures, a ton of ethics, but I just want to remind folks of the role of the board. I mean, the board knows it, but I just want to read it again. There's a whole packet of things, but there's one particular line that I like to read out loud every year. And again, it's on the role of the board. And it says, I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are run well. So again, just to remind everybody, it's not our job necessarily to decide which item of curriculum is going to be administered. Our job is basically to make sure that Mike does his job, and then it trickles down from there. So as collectively as a board, it is our job to make sure the school district is run well. And That's primarily our role. We don't interject, where we stay in our lane and we make sure, and we ask questions of Dr. LaSousa and the administration through Mike. But again, it's just a reminder of the board's role. We're not here to dictate, to question a particular science curriculum, or, we make sure that we follow the standard, the social studies standard 6.2.2, which talks about teaching all the world religions. How that's administered, we leave that up to the educators. So I just wanted to remind everybody that, again, we take it very seriously. We ensure that the schools are run well, that all the students are receiving a free and appropriate education, and we keep a very close eye on the dollar amount. We do not spend frivolously, and we make cuts where need to be, and ensure that resources are placed where they need to be as well, to ensure that the standards are kept high and the costs are kept low. That's our role. So again, I just wanted to reiterate, so that everybody understands our role, the public understands it, I know the board currently that sits here understands it, I just like to say it out loud each and every year. So that was my only item for board business. Does
And
any?
we don't have offices, just FYI. There have been people around town saying, oh, the Board of Education is getting new offices. We actually don't have offices. We have jobs outside of.
Right, yeah, we all work. We get to sit in these folding chairs every month. But that's true. I have had people say, why do you need an office? I don't even have an office at my regular job. So, but thank you, Ann, for pointing that out. I forget that people don't realize that.
Good call. I got a car.
I got a rock. Does anybody else have any additional? I see Dr. LaSousa chomping at the bit.
I just want to say, according to my information, the district art show is at the middle school on May 31st, that evening, 6:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Look at you. Checking the internet.
Trying.
Any additional board business before we adjourn? No? I make a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, public commentary. I apologize, I'm jumping again. We have our second opportunity for public commentary.
Hi, Amy Coates again. The reason we weren't sure of the date of the art show is because it's two dates. It's May 31st and June 1st. So you have two opportunities to go see the district-wide art show that'll have art from K through 12. And it's 6:30 to 8:30 each night at CMS.
6:30 to 8:30.
Facial law.
Excellent, thank you, Amy, I appreciate that. Thanks for following up. Any additional public commentary? Nope, seeing none, thank you. So I make a motion to adjourn the public session. Again, if you, second? All those in favor? Again, whoever gets to Mike's office first gets a chair.